Welcome back, everyone, to our Groundskeeper Chat series. I'm coming live to you from Columbus, Ohio at the OTF conference. And we have our next guest with us. We have Beth Guertal. And we're going to let her, for the first time ever, share her turf origin story on the Groundskeeper Chat. But before I get too far in, I also have to introduce my co-host today.
Well, thank you.
Mr. Christopher Bell.
I'm sorry. I'm used to doing that at minute 30. That's
yes,
nice.
I know. I'm so bad at that. That needs to be in my goals for next year.
I was mentally sleeping, actually. I didn't know you were going to call on me.
He made the gruesome drive down here from Cleveland this morning where I was white-knuckled the entire time. And it was not enjoyable, so I appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you.
But Beth, on to more important things. Our first question for our guests is always, that turf origin story. But we'd love for you to introduce yourself and then, tell us, how did you get into this wacky little career we've got going on here?
So it's really great that we're having this conversation at the Ohio Turfgrass Show because I'm a native Buckeye. Lived here for 22, 23 years. And so my BS and MS degree are from The Ohio State University in agronomy, but I was actually field crop. And then I went off for my PhD, kept doing field crops, vegetable crops, corn, wheat, soybean, all that. And then I went to work at Auburn University in Alabama, and I was about 5 years into that doing vegetable crops. And my boss came down the hall and said, the entire turfgrass program just retired, and you are now turfgrass.
Oh, goodness.
So the summation of that is the whole first year is summed up as, well, we won't do it that way the next time.
Oh, my goodness.
And so there was a lot of learning. So that was about 1996, and the soybean weed scientist also moved back into turf. Now, Harold actually had a PhD in turf, but had always done soybeans for his career. And so from that came that, and that brings us to where we are today.
Wild. That is wild. You really do have to have a certain depth position about yourself in order for someone to come into your office and be like, okay, you're in charge of this now.
But it's not unusual. Some of the most revered names in turfgrass science, you look at someone like Fred Yelverton, he was a tobacco weed scientist early in his career. Bruce Martin also. So in the South, there was a certain flexibility, I think, with some scientists that started in one thing and moved into others. You've still got people that work over a variety because they're agronomists. The training is the same.
Now, is there one science that really holds your heart, or is this what you love about the career, that you're able to dip in and out of different things? And is it the research that grounds you, or what about it do you really love?
That's a great question. It's really the soils aspect, because no matter what you're growing, the concepts and principles of soil science remain remarkably the same. So that's afforded me the ability to look at fertilizers and fertilizer sources and all sorts of things for turfgrass systems.
Very cool. And being on the research side of things, where was the decision with that? Well, I guess let's go back even further. When we're talking dream board, vision board as a high schooler, did you have this career, written up there? Or how did you really find a career in this?
I was, you got to remember, I was born and raised in that generation where everybody had read All Creatures Great and Small, and the first iteration of that book by James Herriot was everybody's read. So I was going to go be a veterinarian. I did all the things you do when you're in high school. You shadow a veterinarian, you work for a veterinarian, and I go up to Ohio State, and you come smack up against organic chemistry.
Nice.
And that kind of separates you out there. And plus, at the time, it was so hard to get into veterinary school. And then you'd go out and you'd talk to people, and they're like, it's hard to make a living. And somehow I finally found agronomy, because I kept saying to people, I really like plants. I want to look at how they grow. I went, that's agronomy. Mm-hmm. And so luckily you have that person. And plus, my father was in agriculture. He was the soil fertilizer chemist for the state of Ohio.
Oh,
and
wow.
my mom was one of the first to get a degree in agriculture in 1947 from Ohio State University. So she, back at the time, thought she was going to be a vet. But of course, back then, women didn't become vets. It's amazing how that's changed as a career. It's almost strongly feminine now. But so I came from an ag family.
Okay.
In our family of 4, we've got 7 degrees in agriculture from Ohio State.
Okay, very cool. Very cool. So it was in your blood.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
It was there.
Yes, definitely. And so when someone comes into your office and says, okay, we're going this path and we're going to now go this direction, what does that conversation look like at the dinner table that night? Like, are you the type of person that's like, okay,
Oh, yeah.
this is my next challenge, or you like white knuckling the table like, oh no, I got to go in on Monday?
I mean, so for my career at Auburn, I advised undergraduates, and, they're just, a lot of them are just the most cheerful chuckleheads ever. And they'd come in and they'd be like, I'm going to get a D in organic chemistry. What does that mean? I'm like, that means door. Go out it. You're done. You're
Nice.
done with that class. And some of those people are incredibly innovative, high-end, top-end superintendents today.
Yeah.
Defining yourself 18, 19, 20 is so hard.
Yeah, crazy.
And we just front load students today with so much. Like, you're supposed to, no, it'll be fine. You'll get where you're going. Maybe that side slip is where you needed to be at that time. And all of a sudden you're going to discover you're running a sod farm, and that's what you're called to do for the rest of your career. It's fine. So I think changing, opening up new discussions is the way to go. I mean, another joke I make, but there's honestly some truth to it. I would have agronomy, turfgrass management, a lot of people transfer into it. They don't find it until about their sophomore or junior year, and they're pre-pharmacy or they're pre-business, and they suddenly go, no, that's not what I want to do. And I'll say, take a summer, go work for person X or person Y in the industry, and then they come back and they either say, oh, I don't want to do that, or they come back so enthused by this as a career.
Yeah.
That is what I want to do. Then we're going to do it. And it seems it's a career that people find.
Yep. Oh, for sure. We've been doing this podcast for, I think we said 6 years. And
wow.
We always ask that question because there's so few times where we see the same story. It's in it, and you're very right in the sense that if people do go the college route and find it that way, it's never like, oh, on my first day or at my orientation, I was, put in the right direction. It's always like, a landscape architect is a great one where it's like, oh, it was the math class that, my advisor was then like, okay, let's look at here. But it's, you're right. It's typically that sophomore year,
right,
or at the end of freshman year where they're like, oh, this is maybe a possibility.
Right. And it doesn't have to be college. It can be a really good junior college.
Yep.
There are tons of really interesting high school programs now where you go out and you work for somebody, and that person has the professionalism to say, you can make a career out of this, and this is what that goal looks like.
Yes, yeah. Well, and it also just, brings a spotlight onto why groups like this are so important. OTF, SFMA, PGMS, all those groups that, have that network, but also have the people like yourself that are passionate about getting in front of that next gen to be like, hey, we could go this way, we could go that way. How have organizations like this really helped you in your career? Whether it be at different forks in the road or just that network, how have they really impacted you?
Well, I think there's 3 distinct ways they do it. One, they point out the problems and the issues that then I need to research because you have a room of professionals. So SFMA, for a great example, those are the folks that maintain the surfaces and promote safety in athletic field turf. And they can come to me and say, hey, have you looked at X, Y, or Z? Or somebody's been trying to tell me to invest in this. What do you think? And that drives research. And then secondly, that affords me the opportunity to give them education. But every time I say it, I learn as much from them as I give to them. And then third, like you said, it's just lifetime friendships. It's people. You get to know the people. And then that lets you grow your students because so-and-so comes up and says, hey, I need interns. And this is what I have to offer. Okay, I've got some people. So someplace like Alabama where you may have a student that hasn't been on a plane yet, will go and do an internship with the Boston Red Sox. And all of a sudden their worldview just opened.
Yep, definitely. And what they now bring to the table as far as interest or what really, fuels their fire, just absolutely.
Absolutely.
It's wild. It just is that like domino effect. And if we have people that are alert and ready to, push someone over and into a different direction, it's incredible what can happen.
Yeah, and the enthusiasms of field managers and golf course superintendents, I send them, hey, here's this 18-year-old immature dude that's never lived more than 45 minutes from home. Go show them things. And, they do some wacky stuff, you know. I mean, I would get calls, oh, they put the cart in the pond. Sorry.
Yes.
You know, but then they come back so much more mature. They've learned work ethic. They've learned responsibility. They've learned how to be responsible for other people. And that's the superintendent.
Yes. And it is incredible when you hear some of the origin stories of the folks that we look to now who are, you know, here speaking as, you know, experts on a matter, or they're the people that people look at and like, I want that job, you know, or what it would be like to have that job.
Right.
And you hear about them getting off the plane for the first time. And the person that's coming to my head right now is, Ryan Bajorn always tells the story of Chase Straw. He like showing up at the Red Sox in like gym shorts and a baggy T-shirt, and you would never put that person with the person that we, you know, Dr. Straw today.
He's the leading expert in remote sensing turfgrass
like
systems.
I know.
Crazy. It is. No, those are all, you know, I mean, and part of it is partially because I'm a woman and I'm attuned to that, but I do view that it's like my job to snatch them up and go, no, the hat comes off. The hat does not go on for the rest of SFMA. I don't want to see the hat. And oh, by the way, let me fix your tie because it's halfway up your belly. And
I love it.
I mean, those are all marks of professionalism and growth.
Yes, definitely. Oh, that is, I really do resonate with that.
Yeah.
And I do love, like, I think the first couple of times I was at SFMA, I would look to the students and, you know, it would be like, oh, this is so cool that, and they were always in their tuxes or not tuxes, suits. And then 2 years down the line, you see them with a team or with a crew.
Yeah.
And that's such a cool, like, cycle to see.
I think turfgrass, both sports fields, golf courses, it's aspirational positions, which is, you know, you don't get a degree in accounting, I mean, and say, oh, I want to be the head accountant for it. That's a different, you know, I want to be the head accountant for a big six. No, but turf is aspirational. Mm-hmm. I want to be the groundskeeper at X, or I aspire to be the superintendent at Y. But the aspirations are different. I mean, I would have students that say, I'm going to go home to Dothan. I'm going to be the superintendent for the Dothan Country Club, which is a perfectly lovely small course. Mm-hmm. But that was important to them because they were close to family. They knew what the hours and the expectations were, and it worked for them. And it's one of the best golf courses, small town in the South. But that was their aspiration. Yeah. And it worked.
I love it.
So it's different for all. It really is. It's a great career.
It definitely is. And we've crossed paths before, like you said, when you came in this morning, just on the WhatsApp group or email threads with the Women in Turf team. Right. So what was it like for you to be into your career and have a group like that pop up on the map?
They're incredibly strong. Like just this morning, Jill Seymour, who's a certified golf course superintendent in New Jersey. Well, she won the New Jersey Outstanding Superintendent.
Oh, I didn't see that.
I just put it on Women in Turf.
I love it.
And I popped up that little Facebook post because it's like, yeah, we want to celebrate everybody. Yeah. And it's a really great group of people. And again, aspirational. That's where you can go and have conversations about, well, why aren't you GCSAA certified? Let's work on getting more women certified. Let's work on getting everybody certified, regardless of who they are. And I think that plus healthy Twitter, you know, discussions where people support and give information. Mm-hmm. And then things like the Facebook group that Gary Grigg runs that he moderates very, very closely so it never becomes negative. It's just a supporting environment. I think those are great for everybody.
100%. That's a great way to put it, that in many ways that WhatsApp group is like my version of Twitter now, because it's so hard to go on Twitter. It's X, I guess. It's so hard. Like I was telling Chris, we did, you know, my review at the end of the year, and I was like, honestly, like my monitoring of social media, like I had to pull back on it like a great deal, because going on there, it's like, you maybe one in every 15 posts now is like somebody being celebrated or a challenge being overcome in the turf. The rest of them, like, I have no idea. This is AI generated crap. Like
Maggie Reeder, who's in Minnesota, she just did a series on the most helpful and supportive Twitter threads in turfgrass.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, which was really interesting. She just went back.
Well, what was the last name?
Reeder, Reiter, Maggie. She's an extension turfgrass specialist.
Okay, very cool.
Really,
I'll have to look into that.
Really cool human being.
Very cool.
So that was kind of fun that she did that. But I agree with you. You got to kind of get it in your head right. And when I go, it's looking for agronomic information or interesting discussions about the agronomy of turf.
Well, and how cool this industry is in the sense that a lot of us operate that way, where it's not, it's not traditional where it's like, okay, that you go on this rung of the ladder next, or you go here next, or you go to this reference point, or you need this, particular degree in order to succeed. It's like, you could be really successful simply by being a part of a WhatsApp group or getting into a network of people that are going to champion you or support you. What have been some of those things in your career that you can look back on and be like, whether it was people or groups or resources that you're like, that changed things for me?
I think one is just faculty, working turfgrass researchers and extension people, because they really are incredibly supportive, because everybody wants everybody to succeed. So if it's time to nominate somebody for an award and do something, so for instance, in the university side, there's the Fred Grau Award, which is given to like what's considered to be the top turfgrass research. Now, this year was actually won by an industry person, a seed person.
Okay, very cool.
But it's usually like a researcher that wins it, and names you would know, like Grady Miller has won it, people like that. So it's like, okay, who are we going to nominate? Okay, who are we going to get to write letters? And so it's a really lifting of all, the lifting water lifts all boats, and we're very good about things like that, I think, as a group. And then it's a really collegial bunch. It really is.
Very cool. Chris, you got any questions?
Yeah, I was just wondering, in your time since you started till today, what's the biggest change you've seen? Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad.
That's a great question. The biggest negative changes, and this would be strictly from the academic side, the role that I occupied, it's far harder to find research dollars to fund a program. So you look, let's say somebody's coming in, so somebody just replaced me at Auburn, an assistant professor of Turfgrass Management. Used to be you got paid for 12 months of work, right? You work 12 months, you get paid for 12 months. Now most faculty are what's called a 9-month appointment. So you only get paid for 9 months. You have to go find your own salary for the remaining 3 months of the year. So, and you have to pay your fringe benefits on it. So salary plus fringe benefits means that, like when I was at Auburn, I had to come up with about $57,000 a year to pay my salary in the summer. If I didn't come up with my salary, I wasn't paid. But unfortunately in agriculture, there's still an expectation you're working. Now, this 9-month salary is very, very common in liberal arts. All those guys just decamp. They go somewhere else. They vacation.
Okay.
Then the expectation is you have to pay for your technical support. So $120 a year plus fringe benefits. And then you have to pay for your grad students. So as you come in as an assistant professor nowadays to just run a research program, you're looking at probably $250,000 a year that comes from you writing grants. Big federal grants are not given to turfgrass people. They're very, very rare. The exception is this thing called the Specialty Crop Research Initiative, which Wisconsin and Minnesota have been, in North Carolina, they've been able to get some of that money for breeding cold-tolerant grasses and southern grasses. But like as a fertility person, so then you look back to the standards, which are commodity money and things like that. An example, cotton in Alabama gives about $700,000 a year. Turfgrass, maybe $2,000, and that's not a knock on them. They try very, very, very hard to but so the funding landscape is horrible. Now there are states like North Carolina, Ohio, that step up in really big supportive ways. But if you're a smaller state like a Louisiana, it's challenging.
Okay.
So if new faculty member coming in, this expectation that they have to pay for part of their salary and get grant dollars and have grad students and have research publications, and oh, by the way, you need to teach, it's a real it's a tough system.
That's a tough sell to get someone to come work and commit to that.
You've seen that tough sell as you see people go into industry instead.
You really have to love what you do to commit to that.
And John Kaminsky recently wrote a really nice editorial about this. On the other side, you can travel as you want. Your time is yours. There's a lot of flexibility in the system. And if you like it, it's fabulous. Like you get afforded opportunities like to come to OTF and speak, things like that. So there's a lot of flexibility that's great about it. But it's a balancing act.
So that's definitely a negative change.
I would say, unfortunately, yeah.
How about a positive change over your career?
I think Well, it's becoming a much more diverse landscape. I think that women are really starting to see more women. In fact, just the WhatsApp, there was a woman that came on and said, I'm going to be appointed the head superintendent at my course in Costa Rica. It's like, oh man, that is, So I think we're seeing a lot more diversity. I think we're seeing a welcoming of different endpoints. I think that's going to continue to grow, and that's a fabulous thing. And then also with that is turf as a science, accepting technology and change is really starting to happen too. I think we're getting really some good technologies out there.
Very cool.
It's interesting.
It is.
It must have been interesting to see the whole progression as well.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. I know you have a call, so I want to respect your time.
Well, thank you.
But it was wonderful to formally meet you
I agree.
and hear
now
your
I know
story.
who else is on the WhatsApp out there.
Exactly, exactly. So thank you so much for your time.
All right. Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Beth.